Blog Talk Radio.
Over the Top Radio from Boulder, Colorado. I'm your host, George Thomas, and this is the 7th of our fall race series. Great racing underway last weekend. Texas time trials just over, and we are all excited about the Silver State 508 coming up in just another, 2 weekends. So October 5th, racers are going to be getting underway out of Reno, Nevada, and wishing race director Chris Kosman and all the participants, crews, volunteers, all the best out there. We also want to thank our partner for the fall race season podcast, Cardo Systems, makers of the Cardo BK1 Duo. They're the gold standard of communication devices for endurance cycling, racer to crew, crew to racer, phone calls, rider to rider, and even listening to music. Please go on over to Cardo Systems, that's plural, cardosystems.com. and check out their month-long Labor Day sale, which is featuring the Cardo BK1 and BK1 Dual. They're on sale for 40% off. It's a great deal on that device. And, as has been going on all month, you also have the opportunity to win a Cardo BK1 Duo by listening to our show. And we're going to be giving out a BK1 word of the show. Write it down, send it to me via Facebook Messenger or like Over the Top Radio. Send it there. The person with the most correct answers is going to win a BK1 Duo. But in case there's a tie, we're going to determine the winner via drawing. Today's guest is someone I have wanted to have on the show for a very long time. Glad it worked out where we were able to connect today. He's really helping the sport of endurance bicycle racing, growing the sport through the creation of his ultra development team, Rev Cycling. George Vargas, welcome to the show.
Thank you, George. It feels funny saying George.
I know. I gotta love another George.
Gotta love another George. Yes, sir. Yep. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Lots of questions for you. I know we're kind of on a limited time. Going to try to keep this one to 30 minutes, but you're someone who I think we could go over that time limit very easily today. Could you start by just...
by ear.
Okay. If you could give us a background on Rev Cycling, please tell us all about it.
It goes back to the years that I was part of the local bicycle clubs that generally did criteriums, time trialing, road racing, that kind of thing. And I just didn't feel like I fit in that group of people, and I was the guy that would ride to the start of a club ride. Let's say it started at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'd already been riding a couple of hours before that, and do the club ride and then ride a couple of hours after that. And I'd show up with reflectors and stuff on my reflective bands, or maybe a vest or headlight and tail light to an 8 o'clock ride, which, of course, it's bright sunshine usually by then. So... and then I would do these 200 miles or centuries and do a quick race report to the email list for the club, and it didn't click with everyone. So I decided in 2013, after working at several bike shops, I said, I actually want to form my own team, and I want to have my own group of people that we're all in the same state of mind. We all want to do endurance events. We all want to suffer and endure, but to achieve great things. So I decided that I was going to form this team, and I decided that out of 2003 was when I started. So it was 2003 was when I started doing ultras. So this was 2013. So now this was 10 years of doing this, and I figured, I've got a ton of stuff I can give back to the world of ultracycling, and a lot of lessons learned. And I thought, well, if I create a team, then I want it to be a development team, so I can share that knowledge with people. And that's not so much a nutshell, but that's what it is in a nutshell.
But you're not just focused on racing. You're there to help people get off the couch. You're there to help develop new racers. You really got to focus on women's racing and brevets. I mean, you're really reaching out to a lot of different people.
I am because, my own personal story is that I had also been a couch potato. I might have been active all my life, and I was in the Marine Corps for 12 years and obviously active then, but I got out of the Marine Corps and basically took on a desk job and gained a lot of weight. Someone of my height, at 5'9", I was about 185 pounds, which to me was a lot. And I essentially become a couch potato. I was no longer active, so I rediscovered the bike, and then my progression was the club ride, the century ride, the hard centuries, the doubles, brevets, and so I figure, well, anyone who wants to do what I do would probably go through that same progression, and at the same time, there are people who are already in that continuum, and they just need someone to maybe guide them along the way and say, let's do a brevet series. Have you ever heard of that? Oh, what? Unsupported events that are X and X and X? No, I'd never heard of that. So a lot of it is also trying to get people to be aware of all the different facets that they could take ultracycling, whether it be supported, crew supported, unsupported. So just many different, as you know, many different ways that you could focus or specialize in the sport, or do them all and see which one you like better.
Now, you said rediscovered the bike. Were you a rider earlier in your life?
Just for transportation as a young boy, and I grew up in New Jersey, and it's funny, if I would go back to the hills that I thought were really big and steep, they probably aren't much, but you just ride around on a BMX type bike, so you only had one speed anyway. And then I was 16, I moved to Miami, and my stepbrother and I would do a 25-mile ride. Now thinking back, wow, that was a really long ride to the beach and back. So, but I've always had a bike. I've always had something that was a method of transportation. And then in 1988, I bought a Bianchi, which I still have, road bike. And I was riding around a little bit while I was in the Marine Corps, but because of all my deployments and the lack of continuity in training, I just basically would ride it every couple of months or so. And then I'd be gone for 6 months. So that's what I mean by rediscovering the bike. I've always had a bike, but I didn't actually, I didn't train, just ride. In 2003, I started training. I actually started documenting how far I had ridden, or, the distance and time and these kinds of things. I started to geek out with electronics and heart rate monitors and altitude computers and stuff. So that's when I consider that I actually on the bike, for lack of a better.
Now, you also a little bit earlier said bring people together that have some things in common, and one of those things was we like to suffer. What is your reason for why you enjoy suffering?
It's so funny when you ask that question. I did get goosebumps, but it's just one of these things that the harder something is, the greater the sense of accomplishment that I feel once I've succeeded, or once I've conquered it. If it's a hill, if it's an actual event, if it's whatever it may be, and also in personal life. But, the bike is something that we're talking about today. So I just get this huge sense of accomplishment from having done something very, very difficult. And the more I suffer in it, the greater that sense of accomplishment is for me at the end.
Which is obvious, because you're now taking on the goal of finishing, I believe, Silver State as well as Race Across America on a tandem, and that is brutally hard. In fact, the last person to finish RAM on a tandem, not relay, is myself, which was back in 2002. What prompted you to do that?
Well, let me make a correction here, because I want to make sure that people know that this is actually going to be a four tandem team relay. So what you did is fantastic, and I admire you. However, I will be doing a four team relay at 2015 round,
which is still insanely difficult.
Yes. I know. I did two-person relay back in 2007 on solo bikes, and that was extremely difficult as well. But yes, the 508 is a solo effort on the tandem, but the Ram will be a 4-team tandem. But either way, I mean, relays are very, very difficult. I think some people think relays are easier than doing the whole distance, but the fact of the intensity at which you do each one of your legs, and the fact that you really don't get to sleep or recover on your off time, it does make it really difficult. And sometimes you just want to ride. You know, that was one of the things I realized on two-person Ram in 2007. Sometimes you just want to get on the bike and just ride for 40, 50 miles, but no, it just it's really short, intense effort, and you got to get off the bike again. So, and then your legs freeze up while you're sitting in the vehicle. So it's really tough to do relay as well as also doing solo.
Why do you think you are so, I hate the word beloved, but you really are in the ultracycling community? I just saw a comment on Facebook under your little promo for this interview from Jay Nielsen. Said he's leaving work early to catch this interview.
No way. That's flattering, it's humbling, I guess, as well. I don't know. I mean, I think with a lot of this stuff, I think of some of the athletes that do the sport. The sport is a below-the-radar sport to begin with. And then you have people that do the sport, which are a little bit different. They're not your typical, they're not your typical road racer who's a sprinter and is really brash and brags about their achievements. And most endurance cyclists are, they're very passionate, but they're also, in some respects, introverts. And some of that is what appeals to me about ultras. Is I get on the bike and I ride for 12 hours and I don't have to talk to anybody. Maybe I do spend a lot of time blogging and trying to make connections with people and trying to learn about people's goals and where they're headed and what they want to do and how I can help them. And maybe it's just the fact that I promote the team, or I promote myself, I guess. I promote races that I strongly believe in, like the 508. This will be the ninth consecutive year that I'm lining up at the start line. So it's a race that I truly love, and I love the camaraderie, and I love the people there. I love how all the crews of all the other racers are so very helpful to you. It's, for some reason, you puncture on the side of the road, and it's a community, and the fact that maybe I promote that stuff more than other people. Beloved, I think, is a very strong word, but I think maybe people are just interested in seeing what I'm doing.
I was really excited about racing the 508 this year. My wife's father passed away, and his memorial service is that weekend, and so I had to withdraw. I just did not feel right about racing a bike when that was going on. That just seemed a little wrong. So we are visiting with George Vargas on Over the Top Radio, and as I said a little earlier, we do have our Cardo BK1 word of the show, so write this one down. The word is Diadora. My longtime teammate Mick Walsh just purchased a pair of Diadoras from George, so why not promote the brand a little bit. So write that down, send it to me via Facebook message, or like Over the Top Radio and send it to us there. And again, get those words in. The person with the most is eligible to win a Cardo BK1 Duo. And if we have ties, that's going to be determined for the winner via a drawing. Again, we're visiting with George Vargas. We're going to talk a little bit more about Rev. We had Sarah Cooper on the other night, who's a member of Rev, spoken with actually a number of people now that have joined that team. How do people join the team?
Sarah was someone who I believe saw me on Chris Kaufman's email blast that I had formed a team. So she contacted me, and we had various and long discussions about what she wanted to do and how I could help and what a team like Rev could provide for her. And, it's just about bringing people together. So eventually she connected with Mike and Mike Wilson. So a lot of these things happen this way. The other folks, I do some recruiting. I actively go out and I look for people that are up and coming, or they're, obviously women, because that's my focus. I want to get more women into the sport of ultras, and men as well. And there's people that I have approached that have declined, and there are people that said, I didn't even know your team existed. That sounds great. Sign me up. So I get them from all directions. Some I recruit, some come to me.
Can people go to your website, and do they need to contact you? Do you interview people to see if they've got the right goals, or really the goals that you're kind of looking to help people with?
Yes. So they could get on to the Rev. I have a blog that's for the team, and I didn't realize how difficult this would all be, but I'm kind of lacking in updating that blog more than it should. But that blog is somewhere where people could read about the team if they're interested about it. There's an about section that kind of talks about me and what my goals are for the team. But yes, there is an interview. I try to find out why they would want to be part of the team. My Red Cycling brand is something very important to me. I want people to identify it with, good sportsmanship and events, because it's not all, I say Red Cycling now, but eventually I also want to do more of the endurance, I should say the broader world of endurance, so ultra running and ultra marathon triathlons, however you pronounce that one, Ultraman. So I want to incorporate all of these other things too and make it a larger scope where it's now about endurance sports, not just cycling. But cycling is my natural market. It's what I do, so it was easier to start there. But these conversations and this interview process is, I want to see what is their mindset. Not so concerned about their previous results and whether they place on the podium, and it's what is their mindset? What do they want to achieve, and how do they approach that in their training and in their racing? So, they have to be a good fit in that respect. It's not always about, well, I've won this race and that race and that race, and I want to come on board. Right? So there's different things, and our team is a little different. There isn't this. We don't have a lot of sponsors. M Drive is someone that has come on just recently, and we're very happy to have them. They're a supplement company out of Phoenix, but I don't have it's Bioptics and Carbo Pro. I don't have this free product all the time. I don't have free kits and clothing to give people. I don't have deeply discounted, sponsorship programs for the athletes. So it isn't. It has to be more about a state of mind. It's someone that wants to be part of something like this. want to continue to see it grow. We're currently in the U.S., Canada, Europe. Just recently, someone came on board from Singapore. So, we're spreading, and I just want to continue to see this grow, and I wanted to keep people to invite and recruit similar people to themselves, and then bring them in also, and hopefully great things will happen when we have people in all these races, in all the divisions. So we have the 4-person women's team and the 4-person mixed team and the solo racers, and so we have representation in each one of these categories of these long distance events. So that's my goal. That's my vision. So hopefully we're working towards that every day.
Now, you actually have an official charity. What is that, and how does that work? How does the team help promote the charity?
Great question, and I'm glad you brought that up. So my mother passed away from breast cancer in 98 timeframe, and so it took me a few years. I guess I was in denial, but when I created this team and this clothing, I wanted it to honor her. So there is pink accents on most of my clothing, and just recently I released a cycling kit that's all pink with black and white accents. And on all our clothing, I try to incorporate the breast cancer ribbon, and I want awareness from that. And at any time that anyone wants to donate, I do have an account with the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And at any time, and October's coming up, so this is a very, very good timing of you asking this question and interviewing me. So Breast Cancer Awareness Month is coming up, October 1. So this is a time when, it should be all year, but this is a time when people do focus on it. And, anytime that anyone wants to make a donation, contact me. I'll give them the link. It's also on my signature for my email. So anytime I send an email out, there's a signature or the link to that account on my signature. So that's one way. And, I ride pink bar tape. Many of my other team members ride pink bar tape all the time. And we like to get someone to say, oh, pink bar tape, haha, and then that opens the dialogue. So it gives you an opportunity to bring up the topic of breast cancer awareness. So yes, and pink socks, and we try to do that as much as possible in either our clothing or our bicycle equipment and things like that.
Now, while Deodora is our show word of the day, I did see that Lake just came out with some all-pink shoes. I'd love to see you decked out in something like that. You'll have to dye your Deodoras or your Garnets.
Yeah. Well, I do have shoe covers, so we can put pink on our feet as well as just the socks. But yeah, that's another idea.
Now, rev, is that like rev your engines? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, thank you. So sometimes it takes people a while to connect to that, but at the 508, my totem is the red-eyed Vario. So just basically a abbreviation, REV, or an acronym, I guess, REV, stands for red-eyed Vario. So Red Cycling, red-eyed Vario Cycling, or George Vargas Cycling, if you wish. But it's something that I was the red-eyed Vario in 2006, and here it was 2013. I was forming a team, and I said, Rev Cycling. It's kind of cycling connotation to it. So I went with it, and it seems popular, so we're going to stick with it.
Now, I first heard of you a number of years ago, read your blog. You were really into the gravel cycling, dirt cycling. I believe you did Trans-Iowa. I think that was the first article I ever read that you had posted on your blog. And are you still interested in that type of riding?
Yes. Unfortunately, here in Southern California, there just isn't much opportunity to do a lot of gravel riding because there's so much urban development. I did do Trans Iowa in 2009, and I fell in love with it. I don't know that I'd always want to do 300 plus miles, but going out and doing 100 miles on gravel is a great training effort. So, which brings me to another point. I've over the years I've really slowed down as far as the maximum mileage I've done for the year. It's very small and very intense riding as opposed to doing these mega miles. But this 300-mile Trans Iowa, it's a very difficult event. You're unsupported. It's an adventure racing format because you don't know where you're going until you get your cue sheet at the next time station. So I do enjoy it. There's just not enough of it, so I have to travel places to do it. And with a 10-year-old boy playing two sports, with the business, and I don't know how much I can get away to do a gravel race in, let's say, Kansas or back to Iowa and race with Sarah. But locally we have a mixed terrain ride that's become very popular that Spy puts on. It's called the Belgian Waffle Ride. It's very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of very, very difficult, lots of steep climbing. There is dirt, there is sand, there is gravel, and then, of course, pavement. So it's a very difficult ride, and it's very well attended and promoted. So I did it last year, or this year, I should say. And I think I'd been back on the bike, well, less than a month, because I had broken my femur in January, and this was April 27th, I think, and I got back on the bike in April. So it was much harder for me, I guess, because I was so out of shape and recovering from an injury. But yeah, I'll do more gravel races if the opportunity.
I want to get back to the tandem, and let's talk about Silver State. Mm-hmm. What do you think of the course? That's going to be different for you. This is your 9th in a row. You're used to the Death Valley course. Now you're going to be racing at altitude. Temperatures, well, they really varied out in Death Valley, but it could be either blazing hot or, from what I understand, there could easily be snow in the passes. The course looks ideal for a tandem, and you've got to be excited about that.
Yes. One of the main, so Lori Hecklin is my tandem partner, my stoker, and she's a very strong cyclist, and actually, if we went two-person relay, she would, outclimb me at all the segments, and that would be good because we would need someone to do all the climbing faster than me. But as a tandem team, or I should say as a two-person relay, I thought out and back course, that means there's going to be a headwind at some point. And it's going to last for 250 miles. So it's either going to be on the out or on the return. And I thought, wow, the tandem, there's definite benefits to riding a tandem on courses that don't have. We just did White Mountain Double, and right out of the gate, you have a 6,000-foot gained climb with lots of 9 and 10 and 12% pitches. So that was difficult on a tandem. But like you're saying, the layout of the Silver State lends itself to a pretty fast tandem course. I don't see where it would be that difficult of a climbing course. I think they've advertised it at only about 22,000. So I just think it's a good fast course, and I also think that with the wind conditions, it might benefit a tandem over solo racers and relay racers that have to battle it on their own. But then things have definitely sparked up because there's another tandem team that is coming, Moot Swan, and we saw them at White Mountain Double, and they did a great job there. So we've got our work cut out for us, and that's Paul McKenzie and Sarah. I don't want to butcher her last name, but Sarah S.
That's actually going to make it a little more fun for you, I think, to have some competition. That's great.
Yes. we're looking forward to it. They're great people, and they're going to be a great competition. So, competition brings the best out of you. So we're looking forward to it. Lori and I are looking forward to that.
Now, what are your goals for 508, and then where do you see yourself going the rest of the year, and how are you going to lead up to RAM next year?
Well, the thing about finishing up with a big event like RAM and like the 508 for your season, it's kind of like you want to just, I'm done. But shortly thereafter, we have a training camp already scheduled for the 4 tandem relay team, and that's at the end of the month, October 31st time frame. So, you probably get a couple of weeks to relax and then get back into training, because you're going to do that camp on October 31st, and then June's going to be right around the corner. It really comes really quick. So Lori and I are going to have to spend a lot more time on the tandem. She lives about an hour away from me, so typically we ride our solo bikes, and then we try to ride once a week, or we try to do an event once a month, or maybe sometimes twice a month if they line up right. Because I just can't do a lot of events. There's just not enough time. And like I said, my son plays 2 sports, and baseball and soccer, and you stay busy that way too. So, but yeah, we're going to be right after the 508, probably in a couple of weeks of relax time, and then back to training again to get ready for 4 tandem relay.
I know you got to get out to your son here pretty quick, and I could just keep chatting with you. So what I'm hoping is that you will join us for our post-508 wrap-up show. I'd love to have you and Lori on, as well as a couple of the solo racers, and I'll be in touch with you about that if you're agreeable. But I do have a final question for you, and again, it is about the 508. After you went out with Lori and you did the White Mountain Double, generally you do a ride like that, you start seeing some things where you're very compatible on the bike, and maybe finding out some things that you're going to have to work on. What's your biggest concern going into Silver State?
Lori's probably more fit. She's definitely had more time to train this year than I have. I missed the first basically 4 months of the year with an injury, and then just business and things that keep me off the bike every now and then. So I'll probably have some issues, and she will still be ready to go. And so she's really strong, so she may have to push me up a couple of hills every now and then just to help me recover. But sleep deprivation is also one of the things that always gets to me. I show up at these events fit and fresh and ready to race. Legs are good, fitness is good, but 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm just dragging, just turning the pedals over, trying to get to 5 o'clock or just a tiny bit of sunlight that come over a mountain ridge. And she's good about staying awake all night. We did the Trona 353 last year, which was the abbreviated version of the 508 on the tandem. So she was good staying up all night, and I was struggling. We had to get off the bike, and I had to do jumping jacks, and I had to do things to just keep myself awake. But probably my Sandman is my nemesis. Everything else I pretty much can endure and get through and suffer through, but just can't stay awake at night. So that's probably my biggest concern, is just staying awake at night. And then secondly would be that Lori's just going to be in better shape, and I hope she's not frustrated when I start to have my lulls. We all have a lull in a 500-mile race. We just hope we're out of sync, and when I'm at a lull, that she will be strong, and vice versa. So we can get through this thing.
And that is I think the beauty of tandem racing on a 2-person relay, which is, I love that division. I think it's a blast. But if you're having that down, the other person's strong, you can really pull through for each other. On a tandem, you're as fast as your weakest rider, and you could be feeling great, really frustrated because your partner is down, and gosh, that can flip-flop so fast where the tables just turn, and you've got to be so supportive of each other.
Yes, no, and you hit it perfectly. It's one of those things where if the other person has that lull, or if one person has the lull and the other person's feeling really strong at that point, you just hope that lull doesn't last too long. Otherwise, you wear out your strong rider now too. So you're hoping you recover from this lull pretty quickly. Otherwise, you're wearing down the strong rider at that point. So yeah, I bought this tandem back in 2007, and I did a few things here and there, but I've not until just recently really enjoyed riding a tandem, and it had to be Lori because she's such a strong cyclist back there. But prior to that, it was just kind of recreational. Kind of got out, did some stuff. I did a couple of 200Ks on it, but now I think I'm actually racing the bike. All these years I had it, but now I'm actually racing the bike. So it's a lot more fun now.
Well, George, I've held you much longer than I said I would, so thank you for bearing with me on that. It's really been a pleasure chatting with you. I want to remind everybody, cardosystems.com. Head over there, month-long Labor Day sale, BK1 Duo for 40% off. If you want to try to win one through our Fall Series podcasts, well, your chance is to write our word of the show down, and that word is Diadora, a brand of shoes that I've heard are the most comfortable out there. People really seem to love them. And send that to me on Facebook message. If you know my email, go ahead and do that. Or like us on Over the Top Radio and send us the word there. Again, Diadora. Again, George Vargas, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, and it was fun. Thank you, sir.
Well, again, I hope we can get you on after the race, and I'll be in touch with you about trying to line that up as well. From Boulder, Colorado, I'm George Thomas, Over the Top Radio.